What's up, guys? This is what if Issei and Vali were, well, childhood friends. Now, you might think, Slick, that's crazy. That's too broken. Besides, wouldn't their dragons disagree with each other? Well, not quite. You see, sure, Vali already has Albion, but Issei doesn't know anything about the supernatural world, and Vali was straight up only allowed in that area because Sir Zex found him. He found out who the fuck Vali was 2 days after saving him, because Vali was exhausted and passed out the first day, and the second day he was barely woke up and had to be fed. Now, thing is, Vali was found at the age of 7, right after Irina left. So Issei is kind of heartbroken, has no friends. Literally, he's right about to meet Mitsuda Motohama, and he does. But he also meets Vali, and they all four become great friends. They're all the same age, by luck having it. Now, Rias was a little bit surprised that her area and Sona's would be, well, also property of someone else. But Vali found his team already. Or they found him, in a more of a sense. Whenever he was given his peerage pieces, he already has everything, but he still needs one more piece. You see, Kuroka would have to be his knight. Well, not knight, but his rook. And that's just based off what Konako is for Rias. Then you've got, of course, another piece, which would have to be Arthur. He'd have to be the knight. And his little sister, I forgot what her name is, she is, well, by all means, I'm not sure how to put this, but she's a bishop. She takes up both spots, because they're that powerful. And then you've got one person left on the crew, and that would be Bigo, the monkey guy. Ancient, like a descendant of Sun Wukong or Sun Goku, however the fuck you want to put it. Now, this is when we get to see something kind of scary. Because yes, this is not only broken, but incredibly broken. Because Vali found out that he still has all 8 of his pawns and his queen piece. He doesn't want to risk getting rid of all 8 of his pawns, so he just gave up his queen. Besides, Bigo was by no means weak, and he was considered the second strongest in the team by Vali himself, so yeah. He thinks that the queen piece would work perfect for Bigo. Though, this is when we get to see Issei one day. He's hanging out with Vali, and they have to walk different routes home. Vali has to go do a meeting with a club, because his clubmates, he doesn't have any clubmates. Well, I mean, actually, yeah, all the people from his peerage go to his club. But he's got a single third year in his peerage, which is, well, Kuroka, because she's the oldest. With a 2-year age difference between her and Konako, it makes it a pretty big difference in a sense. But not in all senses, just most. One, she's actually a lot taller and a lot more defined in some ways, and by far means, and some could say, stronger. As Vali would actually talk with Issei one day and say, "Hey, you good, dude?" And he would actually Vali would actually be introduced with Mitsuda Motohama to Rainair when that happened, when they got introduced in canon. Now, thing is, in this version, Vali could tell who the fuck this was. He didn't believe Yuma Amano at all, because the amount of magic she was displaying was far higher than any human had in this area. And it was all fallen angel magic. He could smell it on her. And he fucking disliked it. He was ready to beat some ass. But he wasn't sure how he was going to do it when he wasn't certain. So whenever Issei was, in peril, he actually found 2 pieces of paper from 2 very different sources. There was Kuroka was handing out papers in a cat girl uniform, hiding her face with a fan, so you couldn't really tell who the fuck she was. And so was Rias's little, what is it called again? Familiar. And Issei catches both of them saying, "All right, weird." And then he accidentally, which he wasn't going to be the one meant to get it, but he also found one for Sona. Surprising him, he grabs all of it, puts it in his pocket, not thinking it was a big deal. But at the same time, it turns out to be a pretty big fucking deal. Because, well, whenever issei does get stabbed in the chest, he is hit with a giant array of, well, fear. He is hit with something he's unexpected. He's in fear. He remembers Sona, how she used to always belittle him. He doesn't know why he's thinking of her. He remembers Rias and her crimson hair, same color as his blood. And then he remembers Vali, his best friend, since they were little. As he coughs out blood, he said, "You will pay." As his face hit the ground, blood shooting out his mouth, 3 magic symbols appearing. Sorry about that, guys. Those 3 magic symbols being Sea Tree, Grimory, and Lucifer. They all 3 appear, and scarily enough, Rias was not happy when she saw that the other 2 were there on what she called her territory. Because this was something they already talked about she wanted. That's why Vali wasn't walking with issei that one day. Because there was a meeting with those 2. With Rias claiming to want issei as her own peerage member and all that. Now, this is when we get to see something absolutely fucking terrifying. Issei's eyes open with a disdain. His eyes open, they haven't given him anything yet. A gear shot out of his arm. Well, it looks like a critical overgear, but it didn't turn off. His eyes glow red and green with a crimson and almost emerald aura of rage. He coughs out blood as he shot a single dragon shot in the general direction of Rainier. Rainier dodged this shit and then went to her, to the church and said, "Oh, fuck." That was strong. But this was all in, one effort and everything he had left to try to staying alive. It was not enough. And this is when we get to see Vali saying, "No, issei," as he went into his bag, pulling out 8 pawn pieces, Rias saying, "Oh, no, you don't," and taking her 8 pawn pieces out and pushing Vali aside. Vali saying, "That's my best friend. I want to save him." "But you already have a pick on who your other 2 members are." "Fine, Rias, you better save my best friend, or I swear to God." Actually being in pain, saying God, when it would literally fucking kill him. "I swear to your brother and my great-grandfather, I will end you where you are if you don't save him." Feeling the pain of just straight up saying the name of God while still being enraged. "Fine, Vali." Taking out her 8 pawn pieces out of her hand, putting them on issei's chest, his eyes open with rage, but his gear didn't just appear. As it appeared as a human, it showed some kind of morphous. That it wasn't just a critical overgear. They could tell what this was. This was the boosting gear. Vali's wings shot out of his back. His dragon wings. And he said, "No. No. Damn it. Why? Why did you have to be my enemy, issei, my friend?" This is when issei's eyes are almost dead closed, as this is when he's back on his feet, as if nothing happened. But it's crazy, he feels like something's odd about him. And after about a few days, hanging out with as he and Vali still hung out with, with their friends, Mitsuda and Motohanma, and the same thing happened, but different. Because in this version, Mitsuda and Motohanma actually got asked a question by Vali if they would ever consider being devils to ever get girls. And they straight up said, "Hell yes." Vali had a little bit of a smirk on his face and placed out two of his own thing. Said, "Summon this demon when you want to get something, but not right now, man. Summon it when you're alone, at your own house. Say different times, okay?" Sure. They both summon Vali, with one having the basic combo star, which is called the Overbooster. No, not Overbooster, but I'm gonna call it Overbooster. which is Combo Star from Seven Deadly Sins, and the other one having Rapidly, which is just the ability to straight up cut your opponent's speed and strength in half with every shot you land on them, adding it to your own. Speed, yes. Strength, a quarter of their strength will be added every time you take half. Thing is, it's not like giving you one half of their full strength each time. It's half what they have left. So, straight up, the best you can do is take so much from one person that they're fucked over, but you can't beat, like, whoever's way stronger than them. But back to What If. Now, Issei's freaked out a little bit, because he feels like he's odd. He feels like he can see in the dark. He walks home, thinking whatever Vali said was weird as fuck, as he kind of feels dizzy. Then he sees something. Donaseek. He sees Donaseek, and Donaseek straight up tries stabbing him. Issei said, "Fuck, no." His gear shooting out of his hand by almost impulse. And he jumped forward and decked Donaseek so hard in the fucking jaw that every Fallen and Devil felt it. Rhea, Sona, and Vali all appeared because they felt like something was odd in this area. Like, that was too much power for most of them to have. Like, even Vali couldn't muster up that much strength, even in Balance Breaker so far. And they've literally had a 2v1 Vali in Balance Breaker to even show a sign of being able to match him. And that was even without him going on the attack. He was literally just blocking their attacks. Not even dividing them, just catching them. And they still couldn't do near this. And they could feel this power was far stronger than them. And when all of them appear, their peerages all feel this too. But this is when they see something. Issei's wings are out. His demon wings. But there's also a spear dead in his chest. Donaseek stabbed him one spear in his chest and laughed in his face, while getting basically knocked out while in the process. Donaseek woke up a few minutes later, passed right on out with Middle holding him, saying, "You got your ass whooped." He said, "What the fuck? Why am I covered in blood?" "Well, you stabbed the guy and he punched the shit out of you right then." "Damn, did I win?" No, you didn't." "What the fuck? I'm covered in his blood." "Yeah, because you stabbed him in the chest." And he's back up again. What the fuck? How? Simple. He's the Red Dragon Emperor. Oh, fuck. Yeah. This is when Issei did something unexpected. He woke up because he saw that injury. But he woke up with Rias next to him. He's like, "What the fuck? What the fuck, Rias? What the fuck's going on?" This is when he's kind of confused, and he's actually freaking the fuck out. It wasn't a dream, was it? Because he remembers seeing Vali, Rias, and Sona all appear there in magic circles. Sona cleaning her glasses, seeing Issei is not a threat. Vali with a smirk on his face saying, "You crazy son of a bitch, you actually hit him in the face and tanked a stab." And Rias saying, "Issei, you crazy jackass." I'll give you that one. But this is when we get to see something even more terrifying. Issei, when he gets up, his mom barges in, basically kicking the door in, saying, "Issei, honey, breakfast is ready." Oh, fuck. Closing the door and saying, "He's got a boy in his room. He's got a girl in his room." His father's like, "Let the boy read his magazines in peace." No, it's an actual fucking girl with crimson red hair. The father's like, "What the fuck? That's some old bullshit." This is when when they basically walk down, Rias actually got to eat breakfast with them. Not a big deal. Now this is when they were surprised as hell, because they saw something terrifying. They felt like something was off about that girl. When Issei proceeded to walk in. They all walked to school, and Vali was the one who actually caught what was his name? Mitsuda's punch. Moto Hanma, about to throw a kick, when caught too by Issei. He wasn't gonna let that shit slide, saying, "Oh no, fuck you. You're not getting that one off." Them saying, "You fucking traitor, you're hanging out with girls, yada yada yada." Vali at least gets a pass. He's hanging out while doing club activities. What the fuck, man? Besides, his main group is boys. What the fuck, dog? I can... Oh, shut the fuck up. No, you can't. Come here. This is when he said, "Fuck you," and Issei just ran off. Vali saying, "Yaka yaka, motherfuckers," and ran away too. They get to class, and they're confused as fuck, saying, "Bro, what the fuck's going on?" This is when, surprising enough, Rias was still St. Kiba. Now, Kiba walked in at the end of class and grabbed Issei and saying, "Bring your ass, come on." Not really that, but basically saying, "Hello, the president of my club wants to speak with you." Issei stands up and walks right over there with Kiba, saying, "Later, Vali. Later, Masuda Mohama." They said, "Oh, later." But that night is when Issei went on his first mission, dealing with the same shit. And this version, he didn't awaken his gear fighting Calwinner. He straight up just awakened his second variation because he didn't know how to turn it the fuck off. And also his bike got destroyed. He didn't feel like running, so he just walked home. Well, not home, but to the school. When he got there, he said, "Hey, Rias, something weird happened with my gauntlet." What? Seeing that's actually the booster gear saying, as she gave it a long-winded ass explanation saying, "Well, the booster gear is this, yada fucking yada," and being boring as hell. Now, this is when we get to see something absolutely fucking terrifying. We get to see that there is a beyond surprised look. And this is when Rish straight up called the only two people she could call for this one. She called, Vali and Sona. Sona and then Vali appear, calling their peer just saying, "Bring your ass," right there, Curl Research Club. Their peer just teleport in. And this is when Issei's like, "What the fuck? Hey Vali, what's up, man? How you doing? How's the Curl Research Club get along with your club? Aren't you like fine arts and shit?" About that, he said, as this is when all their devil wings appear. Issei's like, "Well, bitch, what the fuck?" "Oh, I got a call. I gotta go." "What the fuck? What? Someone explain what the fuck's going on." Ria's saying, "Well, Vali's a devil. He's Vali Lucifer, as you know. Son of a bitch. So his name's not just for show. He's really Lucifer. Descendant of Lucifer, but yes. Okay. And you're Grimmery. If I'm not mistaken in my Bible text, you were, yes, I know what I am. Don't fucking say it. Lesser demon. Shut the fuck up, Issei. I will hit you in the nuts. And Seraphil. Wait, no. It's... I forgot your fucking name. Sona Satori. Oh. Well, I've never fucking heard of you. Maybe this helps. Sea Tree. You mean them crazy water bitches? Excuse you? And she had a water, whip in her hand. He was like, "Oh, fuck that." Alright. Well, so what the fuck? Well, as you know, as I say, I'll explain everything. He's just like, "Wait, what the fuck? You mean I'm supposed to be the one to fight Vali? You mean the crazy son of a bitch y'all told me is so strong that y'all are scared of him? If he goes on a rampage, you have to call Ijuka or Sir Zex the two strongest devils? Yes. Or his adopted father, Azazel, the strongest fallen angel? Yep. This is bullshit. How the fuck am I going to match that? Well, you have to train for it." Oh, I'm a fucked, aren't I? Basically. Fuck. Well, at least I'm going to have help with training? Probably. Alright, whatever. Now, if someone wouldn't mind, the fuck? Alright, we're going to have monthly meetings on this shit, because I'm intrigued. Well, the king and queens already do, but we can make an exception once or twice. Maybe you can join us, Issei, since you are the Red Dragon Emperor. Your words are just as strong as anyone's, so you should be allowed to come. Alright. This is when they started actually noting who Issei really fucking is. He's the Red Dragon Emperor. That's not a light title. That's the guy so completely feared that even Sir Zex is scared when the name is brought up. And that takes a lot to do when he's straight up the guy who can walk up on Azazel and pimp slap him. Granted, he wouldn't do that to Azazel because they're too close of friends, but he could. Now, This is when we get to see something kind of terrifying. Issei doesn't give a fuck. He's ready to fight. So he does his shit and actually trains with Vali and Bigu. Mainly because they really got nothing else to do. This is when Vali told Issei what the call was about. He's got 2 new peerage mates. One is the elusive Mitsuta, and the other is Motohama. Now, when they joined this band's peerage, they were surprised because their gears awakened. Now, anyone would be surprised seeing this shit happen. Thing is, it's more scary than anything. Now, this is when we get to see Vali in his true devil form. Something we won't get to see much ever. Vali's like got demonic wings, a horn, 2 horns, and a straight up kind of creepy looking tail. This is when he walks forward to Issei saying, "I am Vali Lucifer, a true devil, but also half devil." Oh, this is when Issei said, "Issei Hyodo." I guess part devil, part human now? Pretty much. And this is when Issei and Vali trained a little bit. But this is when he still met Asya. That shit would all go as canon. Only, in this version, whenever he feels like he needs to fight for Asya, when Rainier came to pick her up, Issei straight just socked her in the mouth and came for a second one that was completely stopped. If you're wondering who the fuck stopped his punch, well, that would be Donaseek's Light Spear. It basically snapped on impact, but it basically stopped the punch. Now this is when we get to see that there's 2 other fallen angels walking in. Middled and counter. Issei saying, "Well, fuck. 4v1. This is when he comments that his injuries aren't fully healed from when Rainier threw a light spear at his fucking body and he barely stopped it from killing him. Coughing a little bit of blood saying, "Fuck. Fine." Popping his neck saying, "Bring your ass." As he got into a fist fight, he raged out, and he hit as hard as he fucking could. Donaseek got sent into the water. First punch. This is when we get to see Freed appear with a gun and sword, basically shooting at Issei, getting a few bullets off. As they fall out of Issei's arms and chest, because Issei tore him out, he said, "You son of a bitch. You bring me death, and death brings me you." This terrifies them for a second, saying, "The fuck is this cryptic shit? That's terrifying as hell." Yeah, it is. But this is when our eyes open and rage ensues. Issei's completely, kind of just completely shirtless at this point, as his shirt has been blown off or destroyed at this point, as he's laid on the ground, bloodied and beaten. Middle's actually about to try striking his neck, which would kill him. But this is when she's stopped by Vali in armor, the White Dragon Emperor saving the Red Dragon Emperor never heard of. This is when you say, "Ha ha ha ha." This is when Vali said, "Ha ha ha ha. You think you can handle me? My rival may be weaker currently, but you can't even attempt a swing at me. Now, I say, back the fuck up." Oh fuck. Yes, indeed. This is when you hear something surprising. Asya heals Issei from his wounds, because they're not that bad. Now, he's still got his shirt ripped off. All he's got is his cufflinks on. Basically that little thing that where the buttons at the end of the shirt, which he's wearing a basically dress suit shirt, so, yeah. That's all he's got left, and it kind of looks like blue. Almost as if it's like Goku's wristbands from his gi. But Issei grabbed him and tore him off, saying, "Vali." They actually get in this pose, but Issei's completely shirtless. "Vali, let's fucking do this." And Vali's in a suit of armor. "Sure, rival." They walk forward, and the first thing that happened was they got hit with a light bomb that Vali basically used his armor to protect them from. With his divide. He divided up into basically a little droplet of water that he could straight up just blow away. Now, this is when we get to see something terrifying. Issei was training. Now, they had to get Vali a time off too. Basically they gave Vali and his entire peerage time off with Rias. And with also And he also, with something else, he had to also kind of trade something. They also had to get Sona's peerage. Now, Issei meets Saji. He is basically the ideal rival for a beginner. But him and Issei actually bond a little bit with Kiba. Not Kiba, but like, him and Issei actually kind of bond a little bit. So does Kiba. Basically, all the guys get together, even Bigu, and they bond. All the girls are kind of stuck in their same area, and the guys, but this is when they decide. All the guys basically have everything needed to train with each other. You know, the pawns can train with the pawns, and Issei's the exception, he has to train with the king, but the rest of them could train. And this was a great idea in all senses. It'd be perfect. Except for one. It was missing a few key elements. One, Issei cannot hang with the best. So him and Vali were basically having a one-sided fight. Like, it was straight up Vali beating his ass, basically. But because of because of Bigu, they have access to sensu beans, because he actually gardens that shit. And Issei actually asked, how the fuck do I garden these? I usually wouldn't tell anyone that, because I'm basically the only one who knows how. But here you go. You gave me a fucking detailed list on how the fuck to do it? Yep. Thanks, man. Yeah. This is when Issei actually had a pot made just for it. Now, this is where we're going to sidetrack. Now, because Issei is surprisingly overpowered in this, he will still have to be stopped. Because Rias' peerage is the only one going in there. Kiba, who's done nothing but train with their group this whole time, has been surprisingly powerful. Now, Aussie and Issei still sneak out every single night. Volley's away sometimes, and just figures, they're probably just going to smash. But they don't. All they ever do is go train. The dress break. Now, this would lead to something actively terrifying. Issei is getting surprisingly good at it. Like, all he has to do is just straight up attack with that. But he figured out a more attack-based version of it. Now, it still shatters the clothes off of whoever is hitting it, but it'll be able to save parts of it. So he made sure to save the chest and the groin area to be covered. Now, why would he do this? He's too perverted for that? No. This is because it's an all-attack-based one, but it has enough power to blow everything away. It does blow away clothes, but that's all more of a side effect. Its more purpose is to kind of slash at people. That's what it does every single time. Now, it's basically he calls it the body break, which, pretty fitting, because it breaks people's bodies. But it kind of does also rip apart clothes as well. Now, this is when he actually had an idea. Maybe this would work on a balance breaker, because he wants to see if he can beat Vali with it. So, on their last day of training, he walked around with Vali to the other side of the mountain. And they started clashing. This is when Issei slapped Vali's face with a basically pimp slap. He'd done this in the beginning and left a small mark. Vali, thinking he was just going to trigger a small fire blast or something that would basically crack the armor, wouldn't be surprised or scared of it. But this is when he figured something. Oh shit. When Issei snapped his fingers and yelled, "Armor break." Basically, body break, but he yelled armor break because that's the new name for it. Although the body break one is his idea, the armor break one is basically the first shot of it, and the body break is the second, because it shoots off 2 times. As Vali's entire balance breaker shattered, he said, "Oh, fuck, body break," with another snap, as his entire body gets surrounded by pain. Vali said, "You shit." Vali spitting out a little bit of blood, saying, "Well, son of a bitch, that hurt like hell." Balance breaker. Wait, what the fuck? You can go activating it right back again? Yes. And knocked Issei clean on his ass. Knocking him clean out. Then basically dragging him all the way over to Rias. Saying, yeah, he beat my ass pretty bad. Because they see Vali's clothes are ripped to shreds. His shirt is gone. His pants are basically destroyed. He's basically only wearing boxers at this point. Now this is when they basically see him walk all the way up to his room and change, but they see Issei beaten to hell. So this was obviously an almost even fight, with Issei not even having his balance breaker. but he has already unlocked the 3rd level. This one we get to see something fairly impressive. Issei decided, fuck it, let's train, and grabbed his balance breaker type weaponry to fight. And like I said, Issei basically went in there like he was ready to fight. Kiba did as well. Kiba's done nothing but training with a wielder of Excalibur every day. Kinda goes hard, because he hates Excalibur. But Arthur is the rightful wielder of this shit. Like, he's the rightful owner, and he's the strongest wielder. He wields the truest Excalibur piece, and has it basically on his side at all times. Kiba could figure this out in the beginning, but learned to live with it, because they both had fucked up past because of Excalibur. Because he was the only one able to wield it, he was treated like shit. And because Kiba was the only one, like, in that group, he was the only one that survived, he was treated like shit. But he wasn't treated like shit in front of, by Rias, like, no. He was treated like shit because by the people, before he died, well, thought to be dead. He was still revived, and he was dangerous as fuck. This is when we get to see a scary sight. In the beginning of the battle, the teams are basically the same. And surprisingly enough, Issei cracks his neck ready for a fight. Now, they go full on in this one. Oh wait, I did just talk about that, and I never talked about that, I just talked about the training. Well, the events with Rias and Riser would still go as canon, only in this version, yeah, that's the only difference. Now, when Issei's going to fight in this thing, the battle goes basically the same the whole way through. Issei just having it a little more easy than he did in canon, but not by very much. Just easier than it was in canon, but not crazy amounts. This is when we get to see that Issei actually goes toe-to-toe. Whenever it goes down to where he's fighting the entire group, he said, Kiba, yeah, what? See that girl with the sword? Yeah, go face her. What the fuck, man? That's crazy. That's suicide for you. I don't give a shit. But dude, what if we lose? We won't. Because if I go down, you are in. What do you mean? Even if I go down, I'm taking at least half of them with me. Besides, man, you're better with speed. You can take them out. But I'm not going down until I've taken at least over half of them with me. I don't care if I'm bleeding out when I do. You crazy son of a bitch. Let's go. It's good to see that nice guy persona gone for a minute. Don't get too used to it. Kiba actually, for the first time, popping his neck to show that he's not fucking freaking out right now. He's going crazy on this. He pulls his sword, and they fight like a duel. But this is when Issei looked all eye to eye with the entire group, noting there was another swordsman he has to deal with. There were only 2 pawns left, but 1 rook left as well. The bishop, the queen, and, surprisingly enough, Ravel, Riser's little sister. Now, Issei's kind of freaking out a little bit because the queen isn't shown up yet, but he still feels like this is a big-ass group. So he said, fuck it. Temporary balance breaker. Calling it armor mode, which only could last about a second, but it was basically a single moment of tank, which was really just him covering his body in magic to resemble armor that wasn't even red. It was literally just green armor. And it wasn't even armor, it basically was a shield. He just called it armor for a second. And it basically worked as a barrier for like a single hit, but that's it. It wasn't like a durability based thing, it was basically him just using, well, magic don't fucking fail me now. Now it would basically just be a one like shot block. It's like video games where you have that one skill that's just an instant block that can't be broken through. That's it. That's all it is. Now, this is when Issei actually used Dress Break on them. But what he didn't reveal is that he didn't use Armor Break or Body Break on them yet. He didn't use Armor Break because because they didn't wear any armor. He didn't use Body Break yet because, well, he had to get it where they weren't moving around so much so he could do it all at once. So he hit them with all Dress Break, and basically with most of the group being, well, naked. Let's be honest, they were all, basically everyone but the one girl he couldn't reach, which was, what the fuck was her name? Ravel? All the other girls were naked. Then you hear Akeno, or Rias's queen, has been eliminated. Issei grits his teeth, saying, "Fine. This one's for you, Akeno." Body break as he snaps his fingers. This one was an instant KO for all of them. He coughed out blood doing this because it has a bit of a backlash at him doing it. That's why it doesn't hurt him. That's why he would usually just use them rarely, but it does hurt him a little bit when he does it on multiple people. Now, this is when you get to see just Issei. The only people left are Issei, the queen, and Kiba on this battlefield with, Ravel. This is when Kiba's hit with an explosion, when the queen finally shows up. Issei's saying, "Son of a bitch." Well, fuck it, as he grits his teeth and walks forward. This is when he had revealed that was his only trick. That's all he had left. And because it was all he has left, he's fucked. Like, royally fucked. So, he looks eye to eye with him saying, "Let's go." But this is when he sees how much trouble Rias is in, and both of them just fly away, seeming him not to be a threat, because they kept throwing explosion after explosion and fireball after fireball at him. He's got blood dripping off his eyes. He's got blood dripping off his head and everything. He's barely even able to walk. Like, he's literally one hit from being sent out of the ring if he was anyone else. He's just too stubborn to let himself go out like this. But every step is almost as if he's dying doing it. So he put his hand in there and basically said, "Promotion, Rook." I feel like I'm fucked up. As he basically took step after step. And you could hear how fucked up he was. Every step was like he was dripping out blood every step. It was demonic in a sense. As he basically threw his hair, as he basically slided up his hair with his blood in it, it almost looking crimson as Rias, but not quite there. Like a brown crimson. As this is when he walked in. It's kind of scary looking, because he came out this field bloody and battered. His shirt torn apart from all the explosions and burns he's taken. Getting in front of Asya and protecting her. Now it just being him and Rias against those three. Issei said, "Come on, you son of a bitch. Let's go." Issei going toe to toe with Riser for a minute. But then Issei's gear timed out. He was done. Its boosting was done. He's fucked over at that point. His gear no longer having any boost. He looks eye to eye with the Phoenix. The Phoenix expecting fear in Issei's eyes without his gear. What he got was determination. And that's scary. Like, incredibly scary. So, like I said, that Issei's incredibly broken at this point. He's like, they're terrified. But that's when the kind of fear fades. Because they realized Issei's dying right now. The Rook just gave him a little bit more durability so he can force his way through it for a little bit longer, but that's all it did for him. And worst part is, that's all he got. And straight up, he's done. He's GG's. He's basically dying. So he's a dead man walking at this point. As he spit out a little bit of blood, he punched Riser square in the jaw, shattering it. Riser flames around it and healed. Nice try. Then hit him again, right in the chin. Knocked him clean the fuck out, or at least it would've if he didn't heal instantly. Issei said, "Son of a bitch." Well, fuck. Since he's literally done everything and nothing has changed, he's still losing this fight. This is when Rhea straight up had to call defeat because she knew Issei would never stop. And when she saw Issei literally bleeding out while fighting, every punch through drops like sprays of blood everywhere. He's fighting while dying. This literally would be his last battle if he did this. So he literally forced it out one more time. His gear and fling right hook dead into the mouth of Riser. This one didn't heal so fast. Riser noted his healing factor was slowing down. He's almost out of magic. He had to end this fast. So he started beating the ever-loving shit out of Issei again. This time having his sister and his queen hurling explosions and fireballs. Everything they could to defeat Issei. Now, this is when Rias had to give, and because they recognized that Rias gave up, Issei was no longer being onslaughted by attacks every fucking second. But he was kind of pissed off because he's out. He's out of the fight. He spit out blood and said, "You asshole." While spitting out a lot of blood, he said, "Rias." Asti still healed him, but in this version, because Sona was there, like, Sona goes there to the party because she kind of has to, but Vali does too, which is scary as hell because he's seen as one of the only true-blooded devils left. Like, he's the only of the four, like, recognizable ones to come back. Now, because that is what it is, it's kind of scary. But this one we get to see something actively fucking terrifying. Issei kicks the door in, still had to make the same deal with Drake, and walks in like a fucking monster, calling Riser a straight up bitch, telling Riser 1v1 him if he ain't a pussy. Because Riser thought, easy, even if he promotes to queen, I'll whoop his ass. At least I think so, because fuck, I'm gonna hope Rias is the one who did so much damage to my magic and healing factor, because if he is the one who did it, I'm screwed. Rias having just a little bit of fear in his mind, but he didn't want to show that to Issei, so he straight up accepted this. And it was king versus pawn. Issei was allowed to promote to queen. They fought like crazy, but in the end, he still put on his armor. And he donned this armor to fear, and fear factor skyrocketed. He's beating the fuck out of Riser. Like, Riser's even got blood flowing out of him at this point. And he's about to hit him with the hardest holy punch. He just hit him once, and he's about to hit him with a second one that's going to be a dragon shot to end all dragon shots. This one might just kill an immortal. Something even Sir Zex is fearful if he had to take that hit. But Ravel still got in the way, and straight up begged for her brother's life. Issei stopped the fight for a second and said, "Fine." Dropping. As he dropped his entire attack. Surprising her, she was expecting death. But what she got was acceptance. As this is when he said, "Now take him and leave, before I change my mind." Hearing this, she says, "Yes, sir." And this is when she actually started blushing, saying, "He's so hot." But this is when she pulled her brother to the infirmary to get phoenix tears on him. Issei was then given a sense bean by Vali, catching it, saying thanks. Eating it as his body seems like 100% again. Let's go. Sure. As this is when they start basically not giving a single fuck left. But they are, in some chances, pretty fucking hurt, but also not dying hurt. They're crazy injured, but they're still standing. They're not in the best shape, but they're not dead. This one we get to see that Issei's kind of crazy right now. He's running around beating the ever-loving fuck out of everybody. In his mind, at least. This is when he woke up. In pain, saying, "What the hell?" Needing the dragon sucked out of his arm every day by, the peerage. And even, like, Kuroka does it. Now, because in this version, Vali has talked with Rias, and at this point, has somewhat kind of told Rias what happened, Rias understands it and talked to Konako. But Konako didn't fully accept it yet. But she will, by chance, use some of her abilities yet. Not all of them, but some of them. She decided, fuck it, let's go. And use the only ability that she refuses normally. Her ears and tail. Now we would never see this in most chances this early in the series. But she uses it paired with her sister to pull all the magic out of Issei's arm. They could feel the power of this. It's the dragon's arm, after all. But in this version, it has the dragon's magic flowing through Issei's arm, but not through the rest of his body. Because the dragon put up a barrier there. And all Issei has to do is become 4 times his own strength right now, and he can access the whole abilities of the dragon. At least he has to boost a few times to be able to unlock that shit, though. The dragon's limb won't ever increase, though. It stays as strong as the dragon in peak. So his left arm is able to absolutely shit stomp everybody. Though, admittingly, that's it. Like, he can catch and throw any punch he needs, but that's it. Any other chance, he's fucked. Well, you know what, I guess, because of the picture I have, right arm, because I'm making him right-handed in this. Now, his right is a lot more dominant, but that's about it. Now, this one we can see something kind of scary. Issei's back on attack. Because next we have to deal with the Kokabiel incident. And in this version, Vali understands what's going to happen, but he's not part of the Chaos Brigade. Though he does support them a little bit, he mainly supports Ophis, as he was told by Albion, that's who you want to support, not Great Red. And while Drake, on the other hand, is trying to convince Issei, don't support her because she's crazy as fuck. Drake knows from experience with her. She straight up almost killed him on 4 different occasions until Great Red said, stop your shit. And everyone has to listen to him. He's a dragon of dragons, so yeah. But this one we get to see an almost crazy event. Issei met all of them. This is when he introduced his childhood friends all to each other. This is when a little bit of fear sparks, saying, Lucifer? You're literally friends with the devil. Well, descendant of the original devil, but yes. Wow, Issei, you kind of fell off. Not even close. Wait, what? Oh, I'm still on the strongest kick, so I'm the strongest guy around here. Wait, what? Oh yeah, I'm by far more powerful. But this one we get to see something kind of scary, because, well, Issei and Vali are destined to fight. Best friends, but it's more of a rivalry type shit. This is when Vali used the same thing after the fight with Kokabiel. Dimension divide. Issei, hearing what Azazel said, because it was the same event that happened. Like, that all happened basically as canon. But Vali basically stepped in earlier and just drop-kicked the son of a bitch. This is when you get to see an eye-to-eye with Issei and Vali. Vali and him look eye to eye and say, are you sure about this? You want to do it, bro? Sorry, man. It has to happen. So am I. I have to beat your ass. Sure about that. Dimension divide. Fine. Issei saying, absolute boost. What the fuck? Well, your dimension divide is powerful. You're cutting the entire dimension in half. But it takes a while. For me, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm doing an absolute boost. Boosting everything I have 100-fold. How the fuck are you doing that? Oh, simple. I'm basically putting my body at risk. Fine. Him and Issei clash. Issei even hitting balance breaker. And this is when Azazel explained what's going on about the rack size and everything, and Issei straight up called every girl out. And he pulled one shot, boom! Instant knockout. In any other person case. Bigo, who cares about Vali way too much to let this happen, sees that Issei's not calm. He's going in rage. So he actually stood in the way, taking an ass whooping. The staff almost broke. Vali was injured. So was Bigu. Next is Arthur. He jumps right in the fucking face of Issei. And surprisingly enough, Kiba gets in his face. Sword to sword, and they clash. This is when we get to see, surprisingly enough, the magic girl, like the sister of Arthur, straight up just shot magic beams at Issei to calm him, trying to slow him down. It did not work. But so did Konoko's older sister, Kuroka. They went hit to hit. Issei not sure which one to go after, as every hit shot him side to side to go which one he would go after. He said, fuck it, went after one, instant knockout, went after the other, instant knockout. But this is when he added division in a rage. He grabbed a division stone, he knocked out a Vali's pseudo armor. they're telling him not to, but he straight up rips out one of his own boosting stones on the side of the gauntlet and shoves that one in. The pain it caused him was immense, but now one of his gauntlets was white. As he coughed out a little bit of blood, saying, "Hey, Vali, I win." This is when we get to see an almost terrifying sight. Blood comes out of Issei's mouth as he's going on a rampage. At the same time, Vali's dimension divide is gone. But this is when Mitsuda and Motohama both jump in. They already have their balance breakers unlocked. Granted, they're not as strong, but they interfere. First, Issei straight up pimp slaps Mitsuda on the ground, and Motohama is going blow for blow, but his combo star is not enough. Eventually, it's not enough, and he straight up just gets dropped. And rapidly does not help Motohama very much. I mean, Mitsuda very much. Or whatever, I'm not sure which is which. So yeah. Combo star and rapidly did not help very much when your opponent every time straight up was ripping everything apart. This is when we get to see that even though they're both put on the ground, Vali just woke up. He forced himself to his feet, and him and all the others, all their gears timed out. Even Issei's turned off, noting they had no other way of doing this. But Issei wasn't calm. He was in a rage. Bigu was passed the fuck out. He couldn't help. The magic twins were out of magic, and straight up chi was kind of scarce, so they were all out too. Arthur is the only guy who's still fighting on a full level, and that's because he's fighting Keyban on 1-to-1. But they're going strike to strike, surprisingly enough. Surprisingly enough, Zenobia herself is actually intervening and helping Kiba in a few different ways. This is when after blow to blow to blow to blow, it's going as if they're evens. Like they're complete dead stalemate on this fight. But that's all. There's no winning or losing, they're dead staled. This is when Issei wound up actually fighting his friends on a full fight. Surprisingly enough, Irina, who was not frozen in this version, and Gasper actually comes out to stop everything in the fight. Everyone's stopping in their tracks. Gasper saying, "Enough." And surprisingly, we get to see his other side. His masculine side. Wearing a pair of regular-ass blue jeans and a black shirt that says, "Bite you later." As he cracks his neck saying, "That's enough of this shit." Actually grabbing Issei and drinking a little bit of his blood saying, "Oh, Red Dragon is so good." This is when we get to see something actually terrifying. Hearing this, surprisingly enough, Vali said, "Son of a bitch." As Issei hit the ground, Vali hit the ground, they all hit the ground. Issei strips being stood on by Gasper, Gasper saying, "Oh, what's wrong, master?" You know what? Fuck it. Picks up Issei saying, "Dust yourself off. I mainly took that rage out of you." Well, I don't want to go out just yet. This is when he said, "Oh, look. You want to hang out at the concert tomorrow?" Gasper, I thought you were afraid of confrontation. That's the other version. Okay, that's kind of odd. Yeah, I guess it is. Whatever. As blood starts shooting out of Gasper's mouth, Issei asked if he's okay. He said, "Yeah." But the other Gasper doesn't want to really drink your blood, but I do. Basically, catching it again in a swarm of bats, saying, "Oh yeah. I'm gonna let the other one take control once I've gotten all this down." With one big old gulp, you hear, "Oh, Issei, what happened? Where am I? Too many people." And getting in a box, Issei picks up Gasper and said, "You gotta control that shit." Issei then had an idea. "I know what to do. Gasper, come with me. Tonight, you're sleeping in my room." All the girls saying, "Oh, Issei, I didn't know you were into Gasper like that." Issei said, No. I'm dragging him into the dreams with me. That way, me, him, Drake, and the other version of him can all talk." This is when they do. Issei actually was told, "You're taking the most strain from this boy. Your body's basically forcing it to be a link." Now, admittingly, that's crazy as fuck, but I've done more crazy shit, so let's go. And this is when Vali basically felt this magic power issei had to admit to do this. He basically said, damn, he's going hard. Well, as long as it keeps that Gasper guy from beating my ass again. Because Gasper literally beat the shit out of him. He was pissed. But this was more of a kind of sparring match between Issei and Vali, so it wasn't really a necessary death to death, but it wasn't exactly a fair fight. Let's be honest on that one. Issei was beating all the ass. This is when summer would roll around, but let's get back to the dream. So, Issei sees both versions of Gasper. Surprisingly enough, the male version is basically standing over the female version with his foot on its throat, saying, you know, I could kill you right now, right? And you couldn't do shit about, as he was stopped right in his kick by Issei's leg, saying, enough of that shit. Now, let's all look at each other. Them also seeing the actual eyes. The time-stopping eyes that Gasper uses, that gear. Surprisingly enough, Issei said, wow, I did not expect that. I am Kronos. Kronos, huh? God of time. Huh. So, what time is it? It's midnight, dumbass. Exactly what time? 12:01.3. 0.03, technically. That's impressive as shit. Yep, now, if you wouldn't mind, tell me, what the fuck am I seeing? We're trying to make these two combine? Oh, that's rare to happen. Every host of mine has two sides because each eye. That's weird. Well, we could combine them if those two wanted to. They said, yes, please do. And because they didn't want to deal with the shit anymore, and they both wanted to come out at once, this is when Drake used his magic to help this. Gasper, not really wanting to wear girl clothes, but kinda liking some styles. One, he actually wore guy clothes, and actually wore some pretty badass kicks. But at the same time, he knew fashion better than anybody. Though he didn't like being seen in public, he did like that he could do whatever the fuck he wanted, so he went for a kind of punk rock, badass kind of vibe, which kind of fitted him a little bit better. But he didn't, and he actually started to gain a little bit of more muscle mass, because his male form was bulky as hell, but his lesser form wasn't as strong. So he gained a pretty good set of muscles and wore guys' clothes. But he was more of a kind of more dainty looking dude for a while, but he didn't look small. He didn't look big, but he wasn't small. This is when we get to see that Issei figured something out. Over the break, Gasper wouldn't just be needing to train like that. He'd have to train his eye stops ability, stopping scariest things. So it went from people just sending regular balls at him to people actively like throwing magic at him. And eventually it got to the point where Rias was not, where it was actually training. He was training with regular like mages that were throwing full-on magic attacks at him that he was stopping and catching and basically getting behind them, even showing his full abilities off, and a few times actually freaking Grafia out a little bit. But Grafia wasn't surprised, and they went 1-to-1 every single day. In the end, Grafia said, this kid's exhausting. Well, whatever. Every time she threw a magic attack, he could dodge it now. It was almost as if he had Ultra Instinct, but not quite as good. Now, this is when we get to see something crazy. Issei said, fuck it, let's go. And whenever he went to fight, you know, the actual fucking thing, it was a full-on fist fight. And it was actually kind of surprising how powerful this kind of fight was. But not crazy surprising. Now, by surprising, I mean it wasn't exactly planned, but him and But he used his rage power, you know, to basically even out the playing field. Granted, it didn't make it exactly even, but it made it more so than it was before. Now, that would basically make it where it was more of a full-on fistfight than a one-shot attack type thing. Issei wasn't just dodging, he was sending attacks back. And when he was able to go into Balance Breaker, he had to hold it as long as possible until he couldn't hold it anymore and he hit the ground. And that's basically when they would finish it. They kept doing this day in and day out, and at the end, Issei basically went out of there looking more like a beast than he had ever before. He was kind of looking crazy, but not the kind of crazy that was bad, the crazy that was badass. Issei kind of threw his kind of craziness out the window. He was still perverted, but he wasn't exactly as bad. Now, the same thing would happen with Loki. Now, in this version, Kuroka coming wouldn't really be a big deal, though. So, Issei was there, and so was Vali. Issei and Vali looked at each other eye to eye and said, "Go." Sure. But this is when we get to see that Issei's waiting on this shit. Vali tracks where Loki is, and he actually had his team ready to go there. And didn't tell anyone this because he wanted to basically surprise them. But Issei, he 1-to-1 Vali and Loki a few different times at this point. Well, not Loki, but basically he knows how to fight people who are underhanded and dirty tricksters. Sanji. Now, Sanji was basically the rival, but that's about it. Now, we get to see Issei pull up with his group, and he said, "Look, if y'all do send someone strong enough to back us up, because this won't be an easy fight. I've only got a little bit of Balance Breaker. I've got almost mastered Balance Breaker. He can stay in it for about 48 hours straight, but that's it. After 48 hours, he hits the ground. That's what his kind of max out is. Oh, but 48 hours isn't weak, we have to admit that. It's just not as good as it could have been. Now, this is when we get to see that Issei's not playing around. He's straight up going toe to fucking toe with even the meanest motherfucker. Now, Issei sees that there's the World Serpent. That's a fucking threat. Fenrir, that's a big ass threat. Skull and Hati, which aren't as threats, but they're still fucking threats. Now, this is when Issei had an idea. Hey, everyone, y'all this half take Skull, this half take Hati. When you're done, come back. What? That's suicide. What do you mean? It's a 3v1, dude, you're gonna die. Yeah, and? You're a fucking lunatic. So I've been told. But I got about 10 cents of beans, so I should be able to hold them off. Oh, you crazy son of a bitch. Yep. Now, when you're done with those two, join me, okay? Because that's what you're going to need to fucking do. Alright. Issei looked at Fenrir, Loki, and Jormungandr, or the World Serpent, and said, "Hey, I'm y'all's opponent." A child? You've got to be fucking kidding me. Oh, shit. He goes into Balance Breaker and basically starts boosting, saying, "Come at me, Loki." Oh, fuck. Loki's trying to throw his attacks. Issei's actually faster and stronger than him. He's a low-tier god at best. Mid-tier if you want to go highest as he can go. But that's it. Mid-tier on the best of days. Now, even though he's mid-tier on his best day, he's actually fighting pretty damn good. But thing is, the only reason Loki's not getting his ass utterly destroyed is because every time he needs to take a break, Fenrir and Jormungandr start straight up trying to kill Issei. Now, they try to kill Issei all the time, but they try harder whenever they have to have him take a break. And when one of them takes a break more than the others, like they're relaxing as the other two are going crazy all out, and they keep going for that one. Thing is, this is exhausting them fast, almost as fast as it is Issei. after a point, they all have injuries on them. Like, Loki has a big-ass, like, knuckle print on his mouth. Fenrir has a little bit of a limp. And Jormungandr has a giant cut on his side from Issei using his spike on his gauntlet to tear it through. Now, Issei needs to pop a senzu bean then, because he was basically having 3 big-ass strikes and slashes and injuries all over him. As he got that senzu, because he needed it, he went back to it, and he did this again and again, to the point where he only had 1 left. He used that last one to heal his last injuries. He said, fuck, I'm out of senzu. But he still has that thing in his breast pocket. The thing Ravel gave him. He doesn't know what the fuck it is, but he still goes 1-to-1. Loki does this attack while Issei needs to heal up, doing his main attack, which basically was to take everyone out of the fight. Now, Hati and Skull are pretty damn strong. One's to eat the moon, the other's to eat the sun. And they're surprisingly strong. They're not as powerful as Fenrir, but they're damn good at it, what they do. This is when they actually are able to take out, like, not take out, but like, put down. Like, when they got put on the ground, it was a full-on thing. Because even though all of them had attacked, they, at this point, they were winning. With this attack happening, no one could protect themselves. Issei is the only one who didn't get affected by it because, well, his one attack, his little barrier of magic he has, works pretty damn well against it. This is when we get to see there's literally no threats. Like, literally, next to no one is a threat to him. On best day, no one's slowing him down. I'd wager to bet, even on his worst day, about everybody at once is still going to get their ass whooped. This is when Issei is doing something kind of crazy. He's literally holding... He hears what Rasweiss says. There's going to be a hammer dropped. And Issei is going to wield this. And he said, oh hell yeah, when's it going to drop? 20 seconds. Fine. Alright, can we take a switch? Sure. This is when, surprisingly enough, this is when we get to see that Fenrir was taken, but not yet. We get to see that Loki's being held back by Saji and his, absorption line. Then the World Serpent had to deal with Rias and Sona, Tsubaki and Akano. Then the next 2. Konako was with... Basically, everything was going as canon for a second since, right when Issei goes to grab the hammer. But this is when everyone stops. Because Fenrir broke out and bit the shit out of Issei. Like, he had no more senzu beans. He was basically dead. And they didn't have any more Phoenix Tears. So Issei was basically laying on the ground, damn near dead. They could tell he was gonna die if he went like normal. And Rias is ready to kill. But all the girls are. And this is when Saji's actually yelling, you son of a bitch. I'll end you right where you fucking are if it kills me. Throwing an absorption line and actually pulling Loki backwards to him. And actively starting to use everything he had. But this is when we can see a difference. Whenever Rias found that little thing and used that Phoenix Tear on Issei said, I'm back. What the fuck? It's hammer time. As he did the hammer dance, like, dun 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 dun, he basically grabbed it and boom, clocked the living shit out of Loki. But then welded Mjolnir on his shoulder and said, I'm bored as fuck. Well, come here, boy. Wait, what? Because Fenrir just got taken. This is when Hati, Skull, and Jormungandr are still there. Issei doesn't want to kill them, though, but he actually had to step in for Jormungandr because Issei had to be the one to take him. No one else could because he was just that strong. So Issei had to be the one to fist fight Jormungandr. giving the girls a little bit of a break. It would only last for a few seconds, though. He said, yeah, I can handle this from here. Loki was down, so now those other three were the only ones left. But this is when Issei had an idea. He still needs a familiar. That's when Mitsuda and Motohama pull up. With, Vali still being there. And Vali said, hey, yo, Issei, I hate to ask this of you, bro. But, could we get those other two? You know what, man? Sure. But I'm getting Jormungandr. Deal. Issei basically made Jormungandr his own familiar. That's right, one of the 5 Dragon Kings is his familiar. And this is when Issei saw that he could turn sizes. And Jormungandr became a snake. A serpent type one that was pretty cool. And he basically held this snake and said, hey, look at this. And he basically had him as a regular ass snake. Huh. We're gonna need to feed you a lot though, won't we? Yeah. I mainly eat off magic. Wait, you can talk? Of course. When my father's not mind controlling me, I'm quite strong actually. But I hate that Loki was holding me back so much. What? Yeah, he can't really control my full powers, so he has to have these limiters on me, so he can even control me. On his best day, I'm still stronger than him ever. Wait, so you're that powerful? Obviously I'm that powerful. No one can tank me. Like literally, the strongest person around is scared of me. Thor and Loki are scared of me. Holy shit, how about Odin? A little bit. Wow. So, that's how powerful you are? Yes. Yes, I am. Well then, let's do this. Well, yeah. Well, I'm just eat off your magic, basically. Oh, about that. Mainly eat off my left arm's magic. Sure. Why is that the only specific part? I can probably eat that magic soon. Oh, shit. That's Drake's magic, isn't it? Yep. That's a fucking lot. I know. That's why you're eating, not the rest of it. Let me guess, because the rest of it would basically be destroyed instantly. I get next to no magic, but Drake let me all a good bit of his. Of fucking course he did. Now this is when a surprise event would happen. Now the events of Canon would go mainly as they would. They would saw that match thing, but then Issei went eye to fucking eye with the same bitch from Canon. Issei decided to use Dress Break on Asya, and even had to boost that shit up so it would even shatter those bindings that were on her. But in this version, Jormungandr was there. When Issei went to Juggernaut Drive, Vali pulls up, hits his own Juggernaut Drive. Those two pull up and hit their Juggernaut Drives, which honestly aren't as good, but they're fucking strong. And they're using Rapidly, Divide, and a complete combo star to basically fight Issei. But this isn't enough, so Huddy, Skull, and Fenrir all come out. Even Jormungandr came out and held Issei down. To the best of his ability, at least. But this is still one of the 5 Dragon Kings, considerably on the same level as Tannen. So he was damn strong. Though Issei was straight up as strong as Drake in his peak. At this point. Now, something was off though. He wasn't just as strong as Drake at his peak. He was stronger? Question mark? How the fuck was he stronger than Drake at his peak? But not by crazy amounts, just by a little bit. So it wasn't like he could absolutely destroy Drake, but he wasn't exactly just as strong as him. He was a little bit weak. He was a little bit more powerful. Like every punch he threw would straight up knock Drake on his ass. Well, every punch Drake threw wouldn't have done the same. Now, Issei sees that he's now this crazy monster. They started to do the Grab and Dragon song. Hell, they're doing everything in their power to stop him. Kuroka's straight up having them hold him down while dividing him and everything, and straight up taking his chi to move it out to stop with the Juggernaut Drive. It's not doing great. Sorry if y'all can hear that, guys. And then they're also having Konako help with that. And straight up, there's even the fact that Kiba had to make a blade that just absorbed magic. As fast as issei was boosting, it was almost crazy, but then he divided everyone's strength there almost instantly. Vali coughed out blood as his armor shattered around him, yelling Juggernaut, drive, and held down issei. They all had to yell out their full power, and this is when it kind of advanced thing, because they just sent Mjolnir. This is when it was already figured out it would need to be wielded by Mitsuda, because no one else had the physical strength to pick the damn thing up. Or no, Yamamoto, Mitsuda. I'm gonna say the bald one. So Mitsuda, I'm guessing. Yeah, he's the one who can wield it because he has the combo star. So he basically starts bashing out on issei for a minute until he has the strength to pick the damn thing up. Picks it up and gongs one shot out. Bong! Right in issei's chest. And you'd swear this scene was from Incredibles because that's how bad it was. It shattered the chest and blew the chest of issei open for a moment, coughing blood. This is when Sir Zex had to pull up because he was surprised, because issei's armor was shattered, but he got back up, even angrier. There was no way of stopping him. Ejuka pulled up, and actually they soiled him away the same way they had to do with Loki, but under different conditions, since they divided his power and basically put him in a room to suck all the magic out of him so far. But it was like there was an infinite pool, because it was only able to suck out the amount of magic that about issei's normal power had to suck out instantly. But he was feeding off the dragon. This is when it took everything to stop him. The Grab and Dragon song, everything. And even a complete fucking angelic headbutt. Michael straight up pulled back everything, dropping his robe, revealing that he's ripped as hell, and saying, as he pops his neck, fine, surrounding his body in light as he headbutt issei as hard as he could, right to the dragonic head. This made issei's eyes open for a second. He said, think, my child. What the fuck? Issei's eyes open, almost in a rage as his anger ceases. His armor shatters, but not quite. He still has that gauntlet that looks all fucked up. But in this version, because this straight up shook the underworld, the world, and everything, they were a little surprised. And let's just say, no one's really wanting to fight issei. Sure, they think they can take him in regular form, but the second he pulls that gear out, they're shitting themselves. Because issei holds the title of strongest Red Dragon Emperor. He's stronger than Drake. He hasn't mastered Balance Breaker yet, but he's getting good at it. Now, he's basically at this point mastered Balance Breaker, but he's trying to get Juggernaut Drive mastered. But he's not quite there. Him and Vali train every day for issei to basically unlock Juggernaut Drive perfection. Now, this has only been practiced by one other wielder of Drake, and that was by far the strongest wielder. And even then, it wasn't a full-on mastery, it was a pretty much baby-face mastery. I mean, eventually, yeah, he did master it, but still. But this is when issei straight up said, I will win, and fought Great Red to a fucking standstill. Vali got the title of Lucifer back in his family, taking it from the esteemed Sir Zex. Sir Zex allowed this to happen and said, you got it, kid. Besides, I need a break. Vali, realizing how much being a Demon King, what exactly it all called for was paperwork, he said, fuck. Fine. This is when issei actually decided to become a higher power. He had to master every wings, and he did, becoming God. As he basically mastered it, he became an almost unstoppable peak. No one could stop him. He even defeated Great Red in a 1-to-1 fight. Barely, but still. Ophis, issei basically had to team up with Ophis and Great Red to put their magics together, and they made a new dimension. Issei even took the gears, took apart the boosting gear and dividing gear, but still allowed the ability and basically an afterimage of himself and all the other wielders, even Drake, to be there. But it wasn't the real Drake. Now Drake could still give advice to whoever wielded it. He would have a tie to them. They could talk anytime. But if Drake was busy, he would basically tell them everything about what's going on. Now, the thing is, Same thing with Albion. It was the same exact move. Now, this is when Issei noted that now, basically, there was literally the teacher and the student type vibes. Eventually, Issei would actually have sons, and even a few daughters, that would become as powerful as he was in his peak. And they would all try to see who's the strongest. And eventually it became out to be his oldest son. Someone he named after a close friend of his. He called him Mitsali. Basically a mixture of Mitsuda and Vali. But Mitsali was not weak. He's the strongest son. He's actually the child between Issei and Rias. Now, he had the magic of destruction, but he also had a weapon that was kind of rare. He was granted Mjolnir. And eventually, they'd all gotten to the point where they were all kind of scared of him, as he took the title God. Well, eventually, Issei kind of gave in, and said, "That's enough, I'm done." Well, later, y'all. And that's all, folks.